Thank you for watching a special episode of On Second Thought. This is Adam Wagener, the director. We're going to ask courtroom observers of the Michael Jackson trial to tell us what they think about the case. Is Tom Sneddon a malicious prosecutor? Will any justice be done in this case? Is Michael Jackson completely innocent? Is Michael Jackson in a kangaroo court? Michael Jackson fans, speak out.
More than 200 years ago, Americans fought a revolution against big government.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and has sent hither swarms of officials to harass our people and eat out their substance.
George III and his bureaucrats taxed and controlled their lives until the people said, enough.
Welcome to On Second Thought. I am Brianna Moore, co-hosting today. And now for the host and producer of On Second Thought, the good guy in the white hat, William J. Wagener.
Welcome. I'm William J. Wagener, the guy in the white hat, because they aren't wearing hats, so I must be William J. Wagener. Thanks for letting us join you today in your home. Taking off the hat and asking you again the question, have you lost control of your government? In my humble opinion, with Tom Sneddon, our Santa Barbara prosecutor, falsifying evidence with fingerprints contamination intentionally, in my opinion, because after 25 years as a district attorney, he could not have accidentally arranged for the fingerprint to be done after the kid put his hands on the magazine at the 2004 grand jury. But heck, who am I? I'm just William Wagener. But it seems to me people who care ought to think about indicting Tom Sneddon after we elect a new and clean district attorney in the 06 election. Today is June 1st, the day the jury in the Michael Joe Jackson Inquisition got their trial, got their instructions. Actually, it does seem like more like an inquisition. I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But right now, I want to give you opinion, not my opinion, a national correspondent's opinion. And if you pull him up on Google, you'll find 10,000 hits and stories he's written. Roger Friedman, I want to go to that interview with Roger Friedman right in front of the Santa Maria Courthouse in this all-American city. I'll be back in about 4 minutes. Rolling. We're here in Santa Maria with Roger Friedman, who's been watching the trial from inside and outside the courtroom from the overflow press room. Roger, what's your pithy comment for today?
I think it's interesting that the judge has separated out the liquor charges for Michael, and that now we have some lesser charges that the jury can consider misdemeanor charges. Gives them an option if they want to ease up on him in any way.
So if there's like a hung jury and a couple juries just won't go for felony and some want a misdemeanor, this is a compromise.
This is a compromise. Strangely enough, the defense was not really prepared to discuss compromises and didn't seem that interested in it. They want full acquittals, and they may not be realistic about what the result is going to be on some of these charges.
What was your pithy comment last week? Do you recall?
I don't remember.
What was your observations during Debbie Rowe's testimony? How devastating was that to the prosecutor?
Oh, Debbie Rowe's testimony was very devastating and very surprising to the prosecutor, who really expected her to sell out Michael. But it was unlikely that she would do that because she's in the middle of a family court case, and she's not going to do anything to rock the boat in that case. She still wants some kind of partial custody or visitation with the children. Of course, if Michael is convicted and gets any jail time, that will give Debbie an in to really succeeding in that case.
Exactly. What is your guesstimate right now? If the jury were going out right now, what do you think they would find Michael guilty and innocent of?
This jury's hard to read, and these counts are complicated. And I think the jury's really going to be grappling with the child molestation charges. The conspiracy charges would seem to be an acquittal. There doesn't seem to really be a conspiracy. But the serving of alcohol to minors, that's a problem for the jury. And then they're going to have to decide whether the boy's mother is so crazy that she's orchestrated this entire thing, or that there's some kind of truth in what the boy has said in his various testimonies. And then I think Michael is in danger of a couple of child molestation convictions.
That's predicated on if they believe part of the mother's testimony.
If they believe the mother's testimony, but in their case it's going to be more about believing the boy. And a lot of it's going to be based on that tape that we saw last Friday of the boy's statement to the police. And what's going to happen is that the defense attorney is going to have to show in his closing argument that there are inconsistencies in the statements given by the boy and his brother about what happened.
And do you think defense attorney Mesereau will miss that point in the closing arguments?
I certainly hope that Tom Mesereau doesn't miss any points in his closing arguments.
If you were on the jury right now, with the extra knowledge of things you've seen that the jury hasn't seen, how would you vote on molestation?
On molestation, I would vote on this case. I would vote for an acquittal. But the problem is that the prior acts that have been introduced suggest that Michael has a history of sleeping in bed with children that's inappropriate, and that is what's going to color the jury's decision.
Even though Barnes, Robson, and Culkin all said nothing happened?
Yeah, even though all three of them said nothing happened, one kid did say something did happen, and that was the maid's son from 1993. And then we have Gavin's testimony, which is contemporary, and that's going to be the troubling part for the jury to get over.
But you'd vote for acquittal on this specific case?
On the case in chief, on the case now, I would vote for an acquittal.
And on the conspiracy, would you vote for acquittal?
Oh, yeah.
And on the false imprisonment, would you vote for acquittal?
Oh, yeah, there was no false imprisonment. There was no conspiracy at all. But the serving of alcohol to minors, that is a place where I have trouble. And that was clearly done, and on a regular basis. And that's where Michael's going to have problems. But now, the jury has the option of 4 misdemeanors instead of 4 felonies. And they could actually convict Michael of those misdemeanors based on the idea that he was just serving alcohol, not with the intent to molest.
So if you're on the jury, would you vote for guilty misdemeanor serving alcohol to a minor under 14?
Yeah, guilty.
You would?
Yeah.
But on molestation, conspiracy, false imprisonment, and all those loopy things that...
I vote acquittal in this case in chief.
Right.
But the prior acts color the case, and they're going to hang heavy over the jury's head as they try to figure this out.
What about Judge Melville? Do you feel he's been slanting things more in the defense or the prosecutor's favor?
No, I feel like the judge has been excellent. I've really enjoyed the judge. I've seen a lot of judges, and everyone here has a side that they're on, something they're rooting for. The judge has been very clear about one thing. He's a resident of this county. He's seen this case go on for 12 years, and he really wants it to be resolved. He really wants all the questions answered, which is why he let in the 1108. And I think he'll tell us later, if he gives us an interview, will be that he wanted this all laid out in the open and finish it forever.
If there's an appeal on the misdemeanors, how do you think that will go down?
I have no idea. I won't be here.
Why do you think Mr. Franklin was brought in by the prosecutors to adjust...
Mr. Franklin was brought in from the appellate court just to make sure that all the charges were spelled out properly so that there wouldn't be a chance for overturning it later. And it was a smart idea to have an expert in.
Smart for the prosecutor.
Yeah, I think it's smart for everybody. You know, Mr. Sanger's not stupid, so he's cognizant of what Mr. Franklin was doing and what his role was here. And I think it was just smart of the judge. The judge does not want to be overruled or overturned later.
Very good. Thank you for this interview.
You're welcome.
Got it. And that was Roger Friedman, a nationally syndicated writer, and he also does stringing for other agencies. With me right here in the studio here on June 1st, the day the jury got their instructions from Judge Rodney S. Melville, is Pearl Jr. Thank you, Pearl.
Thank you.
Now, some of you that lived in L.A. and moved up here will recognize her. You have your own show there called
Tru Talk, Michael Jackson trial coverage, or Tru Talk straight out of L.A.
Okay, and it's on what channel?
It's on channel 101 in all of the Los Angeles Comcast district.
There you go, folks. Pearl, what have you observed in coming up here and watching the Michael Jackson trial?
I came up here pretty much on a whim. And of course, I'm a mother. And if Michael Jackson was guilty of molesting a child, or guilty of giving alcohol to a child, or guilty of child abduction, I would be the first one to stand up and say, yeah, he needs to be put behind bars. He needs to be stopped. But as I came up here and I observed the prosecution putting on their case, I think is extremely weak. And I think there's a conspiracy to pretty much take Michael Jackson down.
Weak? I would describe it as non-existent. I mean, they were building straw charges based on I think so and I thought so, and kids that are caught lying under oath. And I don't know about you, but when I went to journalism school and I was on the college newspaper as a writer, the first rule was if your witness is incredible, your story is incredible. If your story is incredible, don't write it.
That's right.
And what we've got here is a prosecution that has written a story that is highly uncredible, based on a dysfunctional family with a mother who lied to the welfare agency, took $32,000, put it in her pocket for a boob job and a tummy tuck, while her son, dying of cancer, needed bills paid. That's the evidence we saw last week or the week before in the courtroom, and she's the mother of the two boys that accuse Michael Jackson. And then the boy got caught lying, inconsistent testimony with what he had said at the grand jury. And when that was brought up to the boy and he was on the stand, he snapped back, well, the court reporter got it wrong.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
And everybody, even the court reporter in the trial, their heads snapped. They're like, what? What? You saying one of us got it wrong?
Right.
Court reporters almost never make a mistake.
Right.
They may change the record when the judge tells them to do it, and that's illegal. But they don't make a mistake.
Well, what I think happened with the family, I think the family had a dream to be stars,
Yes.
a dream to have her children be actors or singers or comedians, and I think they had pretty much weaseled their way so far in the lives of people like Chris Tucker, Michael Jackson, Louise Palanker, Fritz Coleman, that once things seemed like they were falling apart and they were losing the grasp that they had, I think they panicked. And when they panicked, I think that they went into kind of a scorned, you know how lovers have scorns?
Right.
I think they went into a lover scorn.
Scorned lover syndrome.
That's what I think they did.
Slash and burn. Slash and burn. Take Michael, take everybody down if I'm not going to be a star.
Right. And I think that when they found out after Michael did the first video, Living with Michael Jackson, the Martin Bashir video, and also the rebuttal video, I think the husband and the mother, Jay Jackson, the husband, I think he decided you should get paid for this. And when they didn't pay them cash money, when they paid them, they said, okay, we'll give you a paid for house and we'll give you a paid for education. Janet replied back that, you know, the son may not even be alive to spend the vacation, but they wanted money. Right. And I think they had got together and decided they wanted money. And then when Chris Tucker didn't come through with the car, that made them even more mad.
Yes.
And so that's why I think they had gotten into lying about Michael Jackson. And then Tom Sneddon got a hold of it. And he was like, the opportunity I've been waiting years for.
Right. I think you summed it up really good, Pearl. Wow, you are. I want her back again. Now, it'd take me an hour to say what she just said in about 3 minutes. But that's exactly what I felt too. This family thought, hey, we're in the big time, and then all of a sudden it seemed to be slipping out of their fingers, and they panicked, and then they ran into Bill Dickerman and attorney Larry Feldman, and they said, come here, my little
darling.
That's right. We will help you make lots of money. And we have a district attorney up in Santa Barbara that really wants to take them down. And Feldman, wasn't that the same attorney that ripped off Michael's insurance company for $20 million or something a decade ago?
Yes.
And I don't understand, Geraldine. Hughes wrote such a good book.
I've read this book in 2 days. It is excellent. It's phenomenal. It's eye-opening. And I also interviewed Geraldine, and she's just a beautiful, wonderful, loving soul.
She is.